Welcome to TV Toastmasters. I'm your host, Naomi Ecklund. Tonight we are here with Greg Rosen and Miller-Ennis. Melody is a woman on a journey of self-discovery who credits Toastmaster with some of her successes, and Greg is an entrepreneur as well as a humorist. So they're going to tell us a little bit about each other and their journey since they're longtime friends. The two of you met in an interesting way.
Yes, we did. Naomi, I was looking for a home, and I wasn't sure who to go with. I didn't know how to approach a realtor, so I saw Greg's sign on a little obscure place that I thought, oh, I'm going to give him a call. So I called Greg. He answered the phone, and he wanted my phone number, and I said no. No.
Like I was back in high school.
Yep. So Greg and I conversed through email. It was well over a month before we actually met in person. He would send me addresses, I would do a drive-by, and he told me if I was interested, and I kept telling him, you're getting warmer, you're cold, you're getting warmer, and it was kind of a cat and mouse game. And I'm sure it probably made him laugh.
So, Greg, one of your talents is as a humorist. So what was going through your mind?
I had never actually had someone not give me their number. I knew she was serious. It was just cracking me up. I just thought, I'm just going to run with it. See how long it goes till she finally has to talk to me. It was entertaining.
And so this launched a friendship.
Yeah, we've been friends a little over 6 years now.
Now, the reason that this story is really relevant is that in the last 6 years, both of you have had a lot happen, and you've witnessed each other and supported each other in that.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Well, it's strange how you have. I think everybody runs into people like that from time to time in their life. But I mean, I would stop over for just a minute to cover something, and it'd be like 4 hours later, and we'd leave and not even know what happened at that time. And this wasn't once or twice. I don't know why. It happened like for a year. It would just, my wife was seriously going, really? Bills again? Till 9?
Yes. It was amazing. I ended up putting clocks everywhere on the property. Greg helped me find a really beautiful farm out in Sandy, and we had clocks in the barn, in the milking room, in the buck barn, in the house, behind the house, out in the garden, because people would come over and just follow me around chores, and they'd say, just like Greg, oh no, I was supposed to be somewhere 2 hours ago.
So you, Greg, write stories, including for Pamphlet Media, about humorous observations of life.
Mm-hmm.
So what are some of your humorous stories that are, well, this sounds like a unique story, but that came from this, that you wrote about, and how did your relationship with Melody sort of help inspire you to, by relationship I mean friendship, to be clear, inspire you in seeing the world through your humorous point of view?
Well, she's interesting. So
Thank
she
you,
just
Greg.
lives a pretty exciting life. I mean, she had a goat farm, and which is kind of unusual. And the goats were like her babies. I mean, they're just like as close as you can be. And then she'll slaughter the goats to eat them. It was just such a weird relationship.
They had a good life, and then they served the purpose that they were there for.
It was a farming life. That's why they were raised. And it was just, I don't know, the love that she would show for them. It was just amazing.
Yeah.
And there's so many life lessons. You said stories. If I was to come up with some, there'd actually be quite a few. But I've not actually done one on her yet that I can remember. But I don't try to bring other people in. I bring my wife in a lot because she doesn't have a choice. But I usually won't bring other people in if I don't have to, or I'll change the names
to protect the innocent.
You know,
or the
I want to say innocent,
sort of innocent.
She is
right.
innocent. So, but yeah,
So I know that you're working on a book.
Yes.
And do you think that there might be some stories that are more than 250 words about friendships and experiences?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So when we were talking, you had mentioned that, 250 words is sometimes a bit of a challenge to tell a story. And talk a little bit about how that process has been for you.
Yeah, it was actually, they started at 250 and it went down to 200 once they added my picture and stuff, space. And what was it you that said you took a story of like 100 words and then took it down to one word?
That was my first Toastmasters experience.
It was like, what? Because usually when I write the story, it just starts with like 300 or 350. And then I have to just keep shrinking it down to get to the point. Earlier you said something about removing words when you talk. When we were busy. What did you say?
Extra words to make it succinct and to the point and more readily
That's
understood.
What you just got to get down to, and then still hope to capture the humor.
Yes, yeah.
Because I'm not,
and that's an art.
I'm not really what I'd call a gifted writer. It did come natural. I just seem to write stuff that is entertaining, but my editors make me look good. They make it flow right, and they actually teach me how to spell where right.
Yeah.
Which where?
Which where?
And
Use the right correct.
and so forth.
There and there.
So, and it's nice to have support of others help.
So, one of the things that Melody was talking about earlier is in Toastmasters, you do things like you have the 2 minutes, and she was talking about table topics and sort of the impromptu questions that get you thinking on your feet. In reading your humor, it's very interesting because you're already a little bit on your feet looking at things through that humorous lens. And what Melody was talking about with Toastmasters was this whole idea of sort of polishing and pairing things. And she's just trying to get you to come to the meeting on Wednesday mornings. So I would like to ask you, Melody, in this growth process, because you were having some major life changes and you got this farm and suddenly you have this great welcoming homestead for your friends. But there was a lot of personal work that you have been doing, and you had mentioned that Toastmasters, much like Greg having to learn to hone his words to fewer words, Toastmasters helped you articulate your story. Can you tell us a little about that?
Yes. It took me a bit before. I'm actually a very shy person, and it took me a bit to go to Toastmasters after I heard about it. And when I went in and sat and listened to the people and listened to them clapping for each other in such a phenomenal way, they are a safe program. They are there to build. They're there to support you. And when I got up and did my icebreaker and started my first step on this new journey of discovery, they clapped and supported and lifted me up in an absolutely amazing way and gave me the insight and the desire that I liked being up front. I didn't want to be a shy person, and that I had the gift of speaking, and with their support, they opened doors I didn't even know existed.
Such a
I ran a farm. I was a manager. I created a sustainable farm and had clients and interacted and did business classes and did things that I didn't know I could do. I did not know that I knew how to do.
And Toastmasters helped you feel like that was possible?
Oh, absolutely. And then they got the benefit of hearing stories from the farm. The story of Big Mama was one of their favorites. And between my new growth and my newfound freedom, Toastmasters gave me freedom. It was what I was looking for. And the support of people that are there, not just in the collective group that I was in, but Toastmasters as a whole. They are there to lift people up and to build leaders, not just speakers, but actual leaders. and to show you which direction you lead best. Everybody is a leader, just depends on where you're leading.
You've mentioned, earlier you mentioned table topics, and you just mentioned icebreakers.
Yeah.
For those people who don't know what they are, could you give us a brief explanation?
Sure. An icebreaker is your very first speech at Toastmasters. And you can get up, you can read your speech, you can cry during your speech, you can totally rock it. And it doesn't matter. There's no mistakes in Toastmasters. There's no, oops, try again. No. And when they give you the feedback of what you're doing, they teach you how to accept creative criticism. And then table topics is really a fun one. And that is actually, you really have to think on your feet. Somebody's the leader. You don't have to participate if you don't want to. And they create a fun topic, impromptu, and you have 2 minutes to give a speech, an actual speech with a beginning, middle, and an end on a subject that you might not even know anything about. There was one topic that I pulled out stamps out of a little envelope, and on the stamp was an eagle. That was the only thing that I had. I actually won that day. I was pretty excited.
Good for you.
Mm-hmm.
So Greg, when you hear people talking about, having a 2-minute impromptu speech, does that feel like a fit for the way you see and you express your humor?
I would say so. No, I love it.
Mm-hmm.
And it's funny because she sits there and talks to you about being shy. And she's told me that for years. But I don't see it in our relationship. It's sort of like, you're saying it, but
You and I just click.
so
we
it's just weird. It's just like, I don't think she's lying.
How long have you been writing humorous stories?
Only a year and a half.
Mm-hmm.
So. Well, I don't know if that's entirely true. Because how long has Facebook been around?
Oh, a long time.
At least since 2009.
Because I've always wrote little things, and everybody always, not everybody, but a few people said, you need to start doing this.
Mm-hmm.
And so about a year and a half ago, I went to Bunch Paper, and nobody wanted to do it.
Yeah.
Not a thing. I made these great packets.
Yeah.
So when I started, I paid for it.
Mm-hmm.
I said,
and you didn't get discouraged. You kept going.
No, and after a year, I got done, and I said, you said your view counts, which you do online, are about 5 times of all of our writers and each one of their artists. I said, great.
Yeah.
I said, I don't want to pay anymore. And he goes, that doesn't excite us too much. Long story short, about 3 months later, he called up and goes, I want you to start writing again, and you don't have to pay.
And they even bumped you closer to the front.
Well, yes, instead of being buried in the paper, he gave me the front page. And then after about 2 months, that he's getting good feedback, and I noticed he colored the back. And I assumed that was to draw more attention to it, because when I opened the paper, it's got like a highlighted yellow back. I thought, okay, I appreciate it. That they're marketing me, so to say.
So when you are communicating with people, and you have this, because I've talked to you a few times now, and you're definitely sort of that person with the little glint in their eye, looking for a way to kind of crack a joke. What are some of the ways? Do you look for opportunities? Is it just natural? What's the happening?
I
there?
actually find that I have to. Well, because I am in sales and what I do, and got to kind of stay fairly serious. I actually find it harder to be serious than that, because you just can't do it all the time. They don't. I think in the sales field, they just wouldn't take you seriously, though. But I do know that humor is an icebreaker, and it just makes you feel more comfortable. So I think it just kind of comes natural. When I think about it, like leading up to this, spent like 3 hours trying to think of what I was going to say, and finally I just said, "This isn't working. I'm just going to see what happens."
So, tell us how your wife feels about being the foil in your stories sometimes.
Well, we dated for 7 years, so she knew what she was.
Wow, that's new information.
Yeah, 7
Wow.
years, and she also knew I was born on April 1st, so that's kind of a clue.
Oh, born gets it honest.
So I think she really doesn't mind that I use her in the stories, because I don't really ask her. I just write them and then I show her after they're published, so she doesn't edit to what she thinks should be done.
So better to apologize than ask permission.
Exactly.
Yes, exactly. I like that plan. Mhm.
And I never, if you've read some of mine, I'm always the one bashing self. I don't bash others because obviously I have flaws. So
Yeah.
I think it's
But I am really proud of Greg. One of the things when he first started, we would sit out on the front porch and I would read them and we would talk and I would tell him what I was doing. And both Greg and I looked at each other almost at the same time and said, very cliche, if no one stands with you, stand alone. Keep going. Keep going, keep going. And he has been one of my biggest supporters. I've been one of his biggest supporters.
That's an amazing friendship.
Yeah.
And it started because you bought a house.
Because I needed him.
Mm-hmm.
And I entertain him.
So how?
He never knows what I'm going to ask him.
Video.
Yeah. There you go. Well, the one of the
It's
baby
a family
goats.
it's a family program.
The baby goats.
The baby goats.
Yeah, that would be the one I was talking about.
Oh yeah. Yeah. He never knows what we're going to do. So he came over one night and we actually had baby goats. And we were eating pizza with the pizza delivery man and the baby goats. And Greg walks in and goes, have pizza. Have pizza. But he would come in
Have pizza is always a good answer.
I know, have
Yes.
pizza. We have baby goats in the living room. We had turkeys. We had the chickens. And he laughed because I hired a contractor to come out and create a jungle gym out in the pasture for the goats.
Well, they need that.
And they got all this stuff done, and the workers said, where would you like us to carry this? And I said, out the middle of the pasture. And they thought I was doing it for the children, my grandchildren. And I said, no, it's for the goats. Greg was out there just laughing.
Speaking of children, I know that you have married for how long?
33 years.
And you
33.
have a couple of kids.
3.
And how do they respond to? Are you funny with them?
When I was talking with my daughter about this, she was nervous. I said, well, of course I'm nervous. I said, I've never been in front of TV before. She goes, Dad, you're funny. You'll be fine. Just don't overthink. So all my kids, for the most part, have a sense of humor. I mean, since having a sense of humor is, they actually say it can make you smarter. I don't think it actually worked on me, but I think it works for a lot of other people. What are the endorphins? Is that the right word? And it's not just my opinion. They actually do produce them. They connect with other things that are in your brain, and if you can supply humor, they're happy, and if everybody's happy, I mean, there's a lot more people kind of spreading negativity and hate than there are spreading humor. I mean, you look at any newspaper, from this little article of humor, I'm not saying anything about Pampa, but your general papers are...
Oh, the news is rife
scary.
with things we don't even want to have to think about.
And half of it's not even true.
Which surprised me of why they allowed me, or he asked me to do it, because I just assume people are drawn to those things. But some people, we like to see a little bit of humor in the middle of their crazy, hectic news. Live off of.
So, Melody, I understand that you're in this sort of coming out process. I know you've been doing a lot of inner work, a lot of evolving. and you are doing a lot of speaking with
Mm-hmm.
Toastmasters. Plans to come out so that the rest of us can hear you speak?
Yes, actually, I would like to do that. The Toastmasters group that I'm currently in, one of the women looks around and she looks at people like their books. And she'll say, this one is the recipe book, and this one is the fishing book. And she looked at me and she said I was the self-help book. And I know, right?
I could see that.
Yeah. So I actually do have a platform that I'd like to go on, and I am currently putting speeches together and talks together that when the platform happens, I will be ready. Mm-hmm.
That's exciting. I want to
Yeah.
hear what you have to say.
Yeah, I believe that there's a lot of women my age coming into their own. They find themselves as empty nesters. They find themselves with nothing to focus on, that they had their emotional needs met through their children and their family, and then they find themselves to be my age and they're looking around going, what's next? Some of them are strong enough to move out and move forward and take the steps out of the box they put themselves in, and some of them just go, okay, I'm just going to settle right here and my life is done. I want to talk to those women and say, you're not done. There's more out there.
Unless you want to be done, in which case, enjoy.
Yeah, yes. Just don't want them to settle.
Well, I had had the chance to read one of your speeches, and I
Mhm.
liked the way you spoke about courage
Mm-hmm.
and facing life with sort of that edge of courage.
Yeah.
So I'm looking forward to hearing more from you.
Yes, that was actually the story of me. And afterwards, I had several people come up privately and say that it was really touching to them and they needed that today. And thanked me for being brave and being a trailblazer, because people don't talk about their fears.
They
Fear
don't
is
talk
not,
about real things in general.
yeah, absolutely.
So talk about speaking about real things and bringing your point of view in. You are also working on it.
Yes.
So tell us a little bit about where that's going and
Yeah.
Before we do that, I haven't really told you about this, but I'm an extremely organized person in general. Be it in my shelves in the shop, things lined up. We're talking about how my kids relate to the humor. And even in the kitchen, labels are forward.
I
She
know
knows
this story.
'cause
I know
post
this.
Everything's just got to be perfect. I'm not anal about it. I don't make them do it. My wife, I don't let her put the groceries away. So I was just kind of throwing that out there because I like things really neat and organized. And so would you please move your necklace over right into the middle?
He can't
There we
think.
go.
You can't think, yes.
I just thought, what were you talking about earlier?
I am an OCD person's
But
nightmare.
What were those two words you were using earlier? Inverted and...
Introverted and extroverted?
Yes, and I was trying to check on, you were talking about what you were, and I'm going, not sure I know the difference.
Well, an introvert is somebody who gathers energy from their own time and space, so they gather energy when they can go off on their own and be quiet. And an extrovert is somebody who gains energy from interaction and communication. And most of us are somewhere on that scale. I don't know that anybody's 100% of either, because we need to socialize, and yet we all need to have that alone time. But you can go along that scale. I'm probably about 70% extrovert. So.
Gotcha.
You're an
Well, I
introverted
was wondering if
extrovert.
that's what it meant when my kids called me OCD? Was
Yeah,
that what
OCD.
OCD. No, OCD is somebody, technically it's called obsessive compulsive disorder. And it essentially means that somebody needs an incredible amount of order to feel comfortable.
Yeah,
So
I don't
the-
need incredible bad. I just need my area that way.
So when the family goes and turns the canning jars, turns the soup cans, took that one blue, you posted on there, I said, could you please fix that?
My kids would sneak out of you said the humor. They would sneak out into my shop. And it's pretty organized. And I have these long rows of them way in back, and they just turn something little. Wait to see how long it'd take me to find out.
Oh,
Literally,
that's too funny.
this went on for years, and I'm looking at it going, it's a shop. It could have been a mouse. You know, and it was like 3 years later, and I hear them laughing one day, and finally they all told me, we've been doing that to you for years, Dad. Like, whatever.
So
It's their way of getting
are
even.
you going to be including those kinds of stories in your book?
No, not necessarily, because what I was targeting on is how men think. And so far, there's no real areas in there with kids. It's more dealing with relationships, how to make them better. But it's also, I'm trying to figure a way. I don't know why. I'm not an X-rated person, but my mind sure seemed to go there a lot in this book. I don't know why. But I
Because
just
that's how men think.
Exactly. But hopefully it will prove entertaining, funny, and maybe, who knows, may help one person.
Well, and sometimes the value of exposing our fears and exposing things that maybe all men do or don't think that way. I don't know. I'm not a man, but apparently that is definitely the men that you want to speak to, and creating a format for that is really powerful.
Absolutely. Being vulnerable on both sides. We've taught each other a lot about being vulnerable.
It's okay.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah,
how will people find you if they wanted to take a look at your articles?
On Facebook, for the most part.
Okay.
Yep.
And
the Greg Rosen on Facebook, is that what you mean?
yeah, Greg
'cause
Rosen on
that's-
Facebook and Pamplin Media. You're published in there.
Yes.
Articles are published there. And how do people find the Toastmasters that you attend, or in general, how would somebody learn about it, Toastmasters?
Toastmasters has a beautiful international website.
Thank you.
Toastmasters.org.
Melody and Greg, thank you so much for being here
Thank
today.
you.
This was absolutely delightful.
Oh, so
I
fun.
appreciate
It was
you
fun,
sharing
Greg.
your friendship
Yes.
and your delight and your humor.
Yeah.
And thank you all for being here with us this evening. This is TV Toastmasters in Gresham, and we welcome you to join us again. Have a good night.
I joined Toastmasters to improve my speaking, listening, communication, and leadership skills.
Toastmasters gave me
Incredible confidence,
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 Great listening skills.
poise,
great leadership skills.
leadership skills,
the ability to speak in public,
strength,
A captive audience.
quality feedback from the more experienced Toastmasters.
Toastmasters really helped me improve my listening skills.
sales skills,
opportunities to go to different groups and widen my whole horizon.
Toastmasters has given me a more focused me, and I'm a much better listener. Toastmasters is fulfilling.
It's a great place to fail your way to success.
wonderful way to meet people,
Networking.
strength.
It's addictive.
It's a club of self-improvement.
It's an experience, it's a ride that you won't forget, and you'll enjoy it every step of the way.
Thank you, Toastmasters, for everything.